We're just waiting on the live stream. Nicola, could you please begin the live stream? Yeah, mute. Yeah, okay. Our live streaming. So morning everybody and welcome to the Islands-Whangaroa Community Meeting for Thursday the 15th of August. I will ask everybody to open.
Ino tātou, ako i te kote me hāta ni te kote mai ro mutu ngā kore ki patapuri. Ko e tuku kāne ni e tanga, ko e tuku mātaranga, ko e tuku uru ngā mutu ngā kore ai ki te whai o ki te ao māruna ko tika i mairia. I te nene tanga arangi te taketaka ngā papa nei rā pūri a pate ki arangi a paharani. Mana ki te ia roto mātou mai I te au te po e te pōtea. Ruia mai te ti, ruia mai te tā. E rungi ui
Right, moving on to, we have apologies from member A. Slack. And just note that we will be Jane Hindle online today, as she will be in transit later. So I'll move the apology for Amy, second of this. Thank you, Lane. All those in support? Against, carried. Just before we kick off, for the benefit of those of you in the room and those watching online, I would just like us to introduce ourselves so you know who the appropriate subject official members are who we represent, starting with Councillor.
Good morning, everyone. Councillor Anne Court. Lovely to see you all here this morning and those online.
Kia ora, wari ha, pia Canada, Islands, Whangaroa Community Walk Member, Moiwan Kauraka Subdivision.
Kia ora, Tyler Benver, the Waihapa representative.
Morning, I'm Kim Hammond, the Community Board Coordinator staff.
Wayne there, Community Board, Kerry Subdivision.
Belinda Ward, KPR Waitangi Subdivision representative and chair for today.
Morning, my name is Maria Bullitt and I'm one of the democracy advisors.
Morning, I'm Linda.
Morning, and tātou ko Pūti Bina Ho with Farmer Benefit Council Strategic Relationships.
Good morning, I'm Bruce Mills and I represent the Whangaroa Subdivision.
And Jane, today we have in the room some very important people, and I'd like to welcome Andrea Panther. If you would like to introduce yourself, we have some staff here. Lovely to welcome to our first board meeting.
Morning, I'm in Jane's team for the strategic planning and policy.
For Jane McCulloch-Takawengoa, I'm the team leader for growth planning and placemaking.
Morning, Melissa Stacey, engineer.
Thanks, and a very warm welcome back.
Thank you.
And we also have a member of the public here, David McDonald. David,
Yes.
morning, David. You are from?
I'm from Auckland, but we have a home in Russell, so I'm just here listening to that. I might have a question too.
Lovely. Are you here to speak today to our Russell placemaking? You are welcome to have 5 minutes in our public forum, or are you just here to observe?
I can probably do about 30 seconds.
Yes.
I'll have a question I'll ask. Mainly to Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I take it that Elizabeth is now permanent staff for the District Council? That is the best news we called this morning.
News has it that she's a senior road safety and traffic engineer for the Farnell District Council.
That's wonderful.
We're delighted to retain you. Okay, so moving on, David, if you would like to stand up and just come forward and have you a little moment saying what it is, and you're welcome to say.
Really, we've had a resource consent in place with council for a property my family has on the Strand, and it's been pretty frustrating getting council to fund. We've used is it Chief Kemp from he's a planner, along with a few of those other people, and we're about to resubmit a consent, but we've got quite concerned regarding the road in front of us because we wanted access to our property from that road, and we haven't got it so far. So I'm looking at some voting down Russell, if it happens, and I'm ready to see if there's any news to me before we resubmit a consent. Essentially, a resource consent. Yeah. And I have actually one question. In council's view, what's an essential vehicle?
I'm not involved. Member Jane Hindle is the Russell representative.
Yeah, I've been Jane.
We have Stacey here.
Yeah.
Who can probably answer any technical traffic or roading. So
Sure.
now is your opportunity
Sure.
to ask.
I'll defer to Jane if she wants to speak. Thank you, Jane. That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And it is, what we're proposing is, keep in mind, just a trial. And so I think
Yeah.
all of the questions around permitted, essential vehicles, of course, emergency services, anybody that needs access to the building, not children. And it should not affect your from the road.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully,
That's kind of relaxed me with.
reassuring.
Yeah.
And you'll hear more Pats through the place-making discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, residents are absolutely allowed to access their properties. There is no intention to prevent access from people to their own homes.
Thanks for that clarification, Jane and Elizabeth. Right, moving on. Item 6, we have no further public speakers, so we'll move into confirmation of the minutes on page 8. Item 6.1, that Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board confirmed the minutes of the meeting held on 18th July 2024 are true and correct record. Tyler and Bruce second, thank you. Any alterations to those minutes? No? Then I'll put it Luke, Tyler, seconded Bruce. All those in support? Against? Carried. Yeah. Okay. And you've been here either for your last meeting. Item 7.1, Chairperson and Members Report, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the reports from Chairperson William Ward and Members Tyler Bamber and Jane Hindle. Do I have a mover? Bruce, thank you. Seconder, thanks, Tyler. Mine is red, slowly working through some of those scenario pieces. Just to update perhaps there you can have progressing with the Kitty domain consideration of the delegation of management committee.
So through the chair, I will work with member Lane Eyre to complete notice of motion to request that.
Okay.
Oh, just to the board, you'll note that the domain has been excluded from our normal process where domain falls under the community board. It was excluded for a number of years as it was a district-wide report. So we're that we've taken out of the back under the control of the community.
And then to then appoint.
And to then do what we do, which is put a committee and get the community involved in its operation.
So the process would remain district-wide or become a vote on someone. Okay, no further questions. Move on to Tyler's report. I see there is a workshop. I just received a calendar invite. There's a workshop coming up in Waitona and the 3rd of September. So I'm sure the time we're included in that, but perhaps
We would anticipate the entire board would be included in that.
not what I saw from the invite, but the board invited, if not, and follow up on that, please. Can you just see it? And if not the full board, at least the one have and the two kitty members, Leah and Slag, are included in that workshop. Thank you.
Can I ask Tyler a question, Madam Chair? The character of sports contracts writing, this is the perennial issue that comes up. Have we actually lodged an RFS? Have we got someone investigating?
Yes, an RFS has been lodged. There was some feedback provided, I think, to Amy, but yeah, Amy's also been chasing this up too. So
She's a part of the nickel.
so maybe that we missed. So
So this is a good segue into asking elected members to consider what happens when a facility becomes a victim of its own success. So where we're doing greenfields and we're going to be doing some in part of the Clinton Park, the management plan, and to pull the team, we really do need to consider growth and the impact of that growth on the safety of music. Madam Chair.
And can you refresh my memory on those spots? Who looks after the roads of those spots? The council?
Harmony Days
what do you mean that inside the
The inside roads.
it's council to a certain point. It's not black and white.
No, I kind of, that was my memory of that it wasn't black and white.
There are multiple legal owners of that access.
Yes, and very sports roading, one should say, and it's not new. That's the pressure on that internal roading system and the safety aspects of it has been highlighted for quite some years since I hung out at the middle courts. Should we open myself up there? Any more questions for Tyler? Right, moving on then, we have Jane.
Any questions on my report? You'll see I've noted that I met David last month. So thank you for coming in, David.
No, I've got no questions. Thank you.
Jane, the only query I have, and we will thank you for your great colourful traffic management pie, the always program. That'll come up later in the discussion. My query is in relation to the email that I haven't responded to that you sent me in regard to the Russell toilets. I actually was at the Bay of Islands Business Group's AGM, the Dawn from Tourism New Zealand.
Yes.
Very interesting meeting, very interesting discussion. Of course, all the key players were in the room, but I didn't have the opportunity to discuss toilets. A real concern of mine has been for some years in relation to the pressure on our infrastructure from the cruise ship industry. And particularly, we were talking the 7th of February.
Yes, it's a really large cruise ship, and it just came across my radar because I was at the Fire Brigade meeting doing community response plans, and this large cruise ship that wishes to come to Russell and stay in our village and look at our community. One of the most consistent themes that came up in the placemaking feedback was the toilets, which is not something we can address. But they are really starting to be not fit for purpose, and in terms of the volume of usage. And we get a lot of complaints from visitors. The community is pretty fed up. Even council staff who use them during placemaking found them not to a standard which is acceptable. And something needs to be done. It's getting beyond a joke. It's not a joke. It's really, and that's something I wanted to talk to Kim when we had the workshop afterwards. But this particular cruise ship, this is the sort of thing that happens, and our community doesn't actually have any say over it. We just get invaded.
And there are, we have similar issues in Pai here, and I know on Williams Road car park, problems have been to replace that toilet block for the Superloo. To get around the pressure. Because we've got that seasonal influx, I think next year is going to be particularly horrendous in the sense that the Marae have just announced to me they are opening their refurbishment at Te on the 3rd of February. So I can see a really big lead-in coming up. It's going to be a huge event for the opening of the Marae, which will lead right into the formal event of Waitangi Week. So it has sort of grown from a day or 2 or 3 days into at least a week. In fact, we had people setting up 10 days to a fortnight prior to Waitangi last year. So the cruise ships, just the one large ship shouldn't probably be the focus, because there's days, we had multiple days last season, several days where we had 2 or 3 ships in. And the combined visitor footprint is probably similar or the same to having a large ship, because not everybody gets off. So we need to sit down collaboratively, Jane, because this isn't going on for too long. And everyone's wanting to clip the ticket, but we're not clipping the ticket, and the pressure and the cost is coming back on the ratepayer and the villages. So
and the village actually has toilets which are not fit for purpose for their own community. It's just, it's just not a situation that we can allow to keep going. We need to figure out a solution for this.
So it was twofold when it became a problem some years ago, just pre-COVID in Pai here, where a number of the businesses actually got together and offered their premises for public to use off the cruise ships, and there was, I think, the level of service, something was contributed in the way of toilet paper and hand washing and all that sort of thing, which I think was a really good idea. However,
it wouldn't work in Russell, Belinda, because we're not on a town water supply. So one of the issues over summer is a shortage of water, and that also needs to be factored into the mix. There's been times when those toilets have actually run out of water.
But Madam, through the chair, this has been going on for years. We've got we've got the toilets at Waipapa, because that's where the buses stop when they pick people up from the cruise ships. They were stopping at Waipapa, and that ran out of water, that ran out of sewage capacity. So, I mean, it's an issue, right? I think it's cruise ships, and then somebody's got to come and process.
Madam Chair, you'll be aware though, through your experience that, 2019, we were seeing about 40 cruise ships in the bay. We're now seeing double that and larger cruise ships. So the volume has doubled in the last 5 years and there's been no change to the infrastructure. And that is the issue. It's the sheer volume.
And
So
the
size of the ships.
But the people that are making the revenue, generating the revenue from the cruise ships, surely should be paying for the facilities.
So this is where we get up playing in the sense that Cruise New Zealand are a really powerful body, or New Zealand Cruise, which way the King's up New Zealand Cruise. Very powerful body, and it's a case of if you don't want us here, we will go to Whangaroa. So Whangaroa are chomping at the bit for us to say, how many is too many? And we were discussing how many is too many pre-COVID. I was in my meetings with them in Poland. So we're all well aware of the pressures. I think it comes down to, from our representative perspective, is definitely environmental issues. And it's referred to in my hood as people pollution. When the ships come, when the town and the bay is already full of free independent travellers. So we have a issue whereby the cost is falling on the ratepayer. And I believe this year, and Councillor Court can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Focus Pioneer and the contract that they have for the increased level of service of town maintenance, which sat with council, now sits with the contractor, and they actually met with and negotiated their terms and needs with the contractor. So I stand to be corrected on that, but I think there's been a shift there. And Jane's question to me has always been, why can't Russell have a Focus Pioneer model whereby they have custodians that actually service that increased level of service? And the second part to that is, one is the servicing and the second part is the cost. Every toilet that's flushed in the new LTP is going to be $4.40 a cubic metre for water. It's gone to gold. And we've got the wastewater issue. We've got the cleanliness issue of constantly supplying the toilet paper and the hand wash and the towels, and the pressure on the actual community. So it's time that the ratepayer stopped having to service the influx, because a lot of them actually don't come to town in the days in the middle of summer on the cruise ships, and yet they're paying. So with the rate rises we've just had in the discussions that we've had around keeping rates down, this really didn't come to the fore. And we've been bashing our heads against brick walls for some time, as Councillor Court knows, and remember airheads too. And Bruce, and some of the discussions. So Jane, happy to try and organise a sit down with the parties, be it regional council,
Finals Holdings, yeah, and Cruise New Zealand even. That it can't be allowed to continue as it is, particularly with the cost of water, and just the general pressure it's putting on our small communities. Russell doesn't have the population base that Pioneer has to even get, other people. I've even talked to some of the businesses about trying to see if we can put our own cleaning team together and figure out a way to fund it ourselves. But you can't get a cleaner in Russell for love nor money over summer because they're all busy. So, it's just really hard. So anyway, we need to take that offline, and Kim's aware that I've been pushing. So can we just follow that up? Can we put something on the action sheet so it gets recorded, and can we pass a resolution so that it gets recorded and gets back into council?
I think that's the process.
So through the chair, if you were wanting, so that action tracking sheet that we've got in your agendas of resolutions made, it's not about adding actions to it unless they come through an agenda item. What we can do though is, if you are wanting further information, you yourself can make a notice of motion, and then that would create a resolution to get on that tracking sheet. But as you say, we have been working behind the scenes with staff to see what that solution is. And also just to point out, you are correct, it's a Farm Holdings Limited They're the ones that are working with Cruise New Zealand or New Zealand Cruise.
Yeah, that's right. And regional council, who are also clipping the ticket quite extensively. Well, is it worth looking at a resolution?
Sorry, Jane, you were just talking over Andy.
Can I make a suggestion that I actually think this multi-agency, and I think we need to have a workshop on it and invite multi-agency parties to the table, because we're talking about levels of service, which is District Council's town maintenance contract. We're talking about capital works if we're looking to improve facility. We're talking about Cruise New Zealand or New Zealand Cruise, holding and NRC, who all have a role in this. We're also talking about the rating impact. So we do need to put some time into thinking who needs to be in the room, because I don't think it helps if we have a conversation here, someone has a conversation with Cruise New Zealand, someone has a conversation with holding, and we're not all aligned. Perhaps we can bring this up at the future workshop discussion after the meeting today. But there's a few more things that I'd like to say, but I don't think the forum is the right place for them.
And it has been heavily discussed over the years, and there's pluses and minuses, and there's, varying opinions of the economic benefit of the cruise industry and all the rest of it, and we don't really want to do a deep dive into that right now. But I just felt I raised the toilet one, Jane, because I see a huge problem this summer. We've had problems in the past, but I see it actually being even worse with combined commemorations and what's looming. So thank you for including that in your report, and we will discuss this a bit further later. Any questions for Jane?
This one. I'm just wondering if you're attached to Northern Regional Council's Taumāriri flood catchment working group, because I think I should put you in there, because we're doing surveys on Maramarka roads and how to protect them, actually to all of our rural roads. And so I think just to keep you up to date, I think.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Anything else you needed to report on your report, Jane?
No, just the placemaking is making progress.
Right. Okay. That's the report. So members' reports, I move Bruce, second Tyler. All those in support? Against? Carried. Right, now we move on to item 7.2, Kararaka Russell placemaking, page 35. Recommendation here. I think it might be worthwhile to have our discussion first before I put the recommendation. So, I need to get on the table. Can we have a discussion first? Come on, I need to understand orders.
If you move the order and somebody wants to make an amendment, stop, or you can have the discussion first.
So I'll put the recommendation in favour on that council approved pilot commenced in late 2024 for 6 months, during which the use of the strand is changed to A, option 1 is shared space attachment 1, map 1, or B, option 2, essential vehicle access only, attachment 1, map 2, or C, option 3, essential vehicle access only from Cass Street to Pitt Street, with the remainder of the strand as a shared space attachment 1, map 3. Do I have an order?
Jane.
We're not supposed to have A, B or C, not all three, and so putting the resolution.
That's why I was. Yeah, I'm ready to
I think we're going to get ourselves into a pickle. Sorry, it's not very technical language, is it? But I think we'd be better off to move to suspend standing order and have the debate and come back to the recommendation.
Jane, council report has moved that we suspend standing orders and discuss it first. Are you happy to second that?
Yes, I second that.
Okay. All those in support? Against? Carried. Right.
Who's going to lead us?
Yeah.
Would you like me to lead?
Yeah. Yes, please, Jane.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
We had a very inclusive and comprehensive consultation process with the community. This particular topic has been vexing the community for decades, and it would be fair to say that there are quite polarised opinions in the community as to whether the Strand should be pedestrianised or whether it should be left the way it is. And through the placemaking project, we were able to actually ask the community what they thought. And the value of what we've done is to actually get a very broad range of people, because quite often you get lots of loud voices and they drown out a lot of people who have quite thoughtful considerations. So we had nearly 400 people vote on how they wanted to see the traffic management on the Strand. And I think it's fair to say that the community is mixed in its views. There are some, 21%, who wish to leave it exactly as it is. But that means 79% of the people would like to see it improved and some form of traffic management to make it safer. And as Madam Chair Belinda has spoken to on numerous occasions, and we will speak to later, the fact that we have al fresco dining in Russell, not on a pavement outside the business, but across a road, creates a health and safety risk for the staff serving table, which is not really appropriate. And it is also the fact that many children and many kids play on the Strand and are not aware that traffic can come down at any times. And I spoke to pretty much every resident on the Strand, and most of them had stories of near misses of kids that have nearly been wiped out by cars. So people that live there all the time have I think, David, you're not there all the time, but certainly people living on both the North and the South Strand were very keen to see something done to improve the safety. So with the mixed vote, there was not an outright majority to pedestrianise the Strand. It was 45%. If you look at the votes for the half of the Strand being pedestrianised, which is just the north half, which is from the corner shop, the Russell Fresh corner shop, down to Haratu. So it's kind of like the heritage area with the gables, the museum, the marae. That half, there was, I think, 19% voted. So if you added those two together, you got 65% that were very comfortable having half the Strand pedestrianised. And we felt that was a good majority, and it would enable people to see a choice. They could see on one side it would be a shared road, which would be a reduced speed limit. There would be some traffic calming measurements introduced to make it safer. And on the other side, we'd have pedestrianised for residents and emergency access only. And then people could trial it for 6 months and see how they feel. They got everybody sort of got a win, apart from the people that wanted status quo. Everybody got something that they wanted. So we felt this was a very pragmatic way forward, with evidence that says 64% of the people would support this. And so that is why the recommendation has come through as it has.
Thanks, Anne. Jane, sorry.
Jane, could I ask you a question? Just how many of the buildings on the Strand don't have access to the back road or another street?
On David's side, there's pretty much only him. And although he has access from the rear, there are difficulties in him accessing that. So he is looking to use the front access so that he can access his property. Otherwise, all the other properties have rear access. In fact, there are not many properties on the north side of the Strand. There's Minna Salisbury, and she's got rear access. On the north side of the Strand, there are about 4 properties, of which 2 or 3 don't have access. And they obviously, even if it's pedestrianised, clearly people will be able to access. I'm sorry, I've got a kitten. Shush, Harry. people would be able to access their own properties. Sorry.
I've got a question, who's Harry?
Harry is howling in my ear. So I mean, when we say pedestrianised, we clearly don't mean that people with properties there can't get to their own properties. And we also want to make sure that businesses on the Strand. So one of the other people who have talked to me, and I talked to them again yesterday, Russell Mini Tours. Their business drives mini tours on the Strand, and we have all the way through gone, they're a business, they operate on the Strand. We're not planning to stop them using the Strand. They will be one of the permitted vehicles. And we've also talked about our queer and kaumātua and disabled people, and want to make sure that if they want to drive on the Strand, they'll be able to drive on the Strand. It's not about stopping people, it's about reducing the traffic and making it safer.
I have to admit that I lived on the Strand for a brief period of time, 20-some-odd years ago, 25 years ago. And different place, different time, different volumes. But it would seem to me that the most critical people are the ones that live on the Strand and need access. Businesses used to do it. If my memory serves, there used to be a time constraint on businesses getting deliveries. They would do it in the morning or in the afternoons. But anyway, that's fine. I'm sorry to hold.
Yeah, well, so the businesses, if you look at the Saudi Club, that has access from the rear. If you look at the Seaside, that has access from the rear. Butterfish has access from the rear. So a lot of these businesses do have accesses from the rear. The Duke has accesses from the rear. Their car parks opposite the road. Clearly, if they had a wedding car, of course there'd be allowed. I mean, this is not about trying to stop people enjoying the Strand. This is about trying to reduce the traffic, make it safer, make it more pleasant for everyone.
So Jane, a couple of questions just in relation to that. Was discussion had around the properties on the northern end dual access not using the Strand for everyday business?
Well, there is only David. There are no properties.
It would be helpful if we knew where David lived on this map.
So he's next to Butterfish. So he's just by the courtyard, next to the near the Saudi Club. He's the opposite the alleyway from the Saudi Club. There's an alleyway where there's a cafe, and then David's on the other side. We're above Max Kiwi.
Can I just ask Madam Chair for clarification, because all we've got is an aerial view map, and for those of us not intimately familiar with Russell.
Are you between
David, would you like to come forward and just show Anne? Councillor talking.
It's really hard when you keep getting interrupted. Could you please put an X mark at the top of you? So when someone says a cafe or a swordfish club, I'm looking at a picture of a whole bunch of buildings.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting clarity on what that means.
Yeah.
And when someone says the north side of the Strand, what does that actually mean? North of the wall, sorry.
That would be the right-hand side.
North of the wall. X mark the spot.
That's what.
Thank you.
This is still there's the wall. There's the wall.
Okay.
And is that a business or a residence? We have residents there. We also have a tenant and gift shop there. And it used to be a cafe, but
And we used to have a gate onto the alleyway from Swordfish Club.
we did years ago. But one of our tenants upset the Swordfish Club.
That's right.
And
I was the general manager of the Swordfish Club.
That's right.
Yeah. He's down here. It's a building adjacent across the alleyway from.
So most of the buildings on that side of the Strand have access for deliveries from the rear.
Yeah.
So there's nobody apart from David would need access.
Asking badly, Jane, was discussion around non-essential traffic movements on the Strand when we've got dual access discussed during this?
Elizabeth, do you want to bring that in? Do you want to talk to that?
And through the chair, we did have discussions with all of the businesses, and the assumption was if you have dual access, you will use the majority of the time the access off of the main road and not the pedestrianized access. The exception, of course, be conversations with the Duke as an example. When we have a wedding, the car doesn't want to pull up next to the rubbish bins in the back and the bride get out. She wants to get out in front of the hotel and have those photos taken. And that would absolutely be accommodated. But the preference be that there is dual access that's easily accessible, not in David's case, that they're using that access.
Buses.
And the Duke side is still a shared space, so there's no restriction on traffic, like cars pulling up at the Duke. So cars can go down that side, and that's one of the reasons why the pragmatic approach was to take half and half. So that side, which has got, you know, the Duke and some residents and all the rest of it, there's still traffic allowed. Just not camper vans.
So you can still bring buses down. Jane,
Small buses, not coaches. I suppose they could fit coaches. We would discourage coaches, let's put it that way.
That sounds good.
Tyler.
For the southern end, the expectation be that this is sort of self-policed by just signage.
Yeah, it can't be policed.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and people will decide that they can drive down it because they want to, and that's, you know, we're not going to be able to stop them.
Is there one of the issues that used to occur there is when traffic started coming down, there was nowhere for them to turn. I mean,
Elizabeth has a cunning plan.
Okay. I won't make it. But that was one of the factors that we always had a problem policing traffic, is that cars would start to come down, and then there was nowhere convenient for them to, oh, I can't drive along there, so I'll get out. So if you've improved that, congratulations.
So Elizabeth, do you want to talk to your cunning plan?
Hello, Elizabeth. Yeah.
But through the chair, you're absolutely right. And so the cunning plan, I'm not certain that cunning, but we will do everything we can to indicate to people that this is limited access from the beginning of Cass Street. So we make that first turn, narrowing up limited vehicle access, limited turning signs, so people aren't automatically living. Right. And the other piece is narrowing again before you actually get into the area in front of the port, where the brickwork is. But we will have to monitor that ability to turn, leaving a space in there. One of the things that was made quite clear to us from the beginning is nothing we do can eliminate parking that exists currently, legalized parking, and that has to remain the same. So we have to work constraints where there's no formalized parking. And because it's a pilot and a trial, we have the ability to adjust throughout. So if something that's absolutely working, we can make those adjustments.
And your roundabout. You have a roundabout going in.
We always, not Elizabeth's.
Through the chair, if we're going to maintain a parking area for Russell Mini tours and their ability to access, we need to look very carefully at a very small roundabout. I'm not certain that that's going to work on further reflection. Okay. However, it depends on what option the elected members approve until design. What you have before you today is very large scale concept ideas to get a feel for what is possible. We have not done any sort of detail.
And Madam Chair, what we want to do is ensure that the businesses are part of working with Elizabeth to help to make sure that we try and get it right. So I've spoken to Russell Mini Tours and they're keen to be part of the working group. So we're not doing this in isolation. We're working with those people that are going to be using it day in, day out.
Thanks, Jane.
I've got a couple of questions. Before I ask them, I just would like to preface it to give Jane some comfort. It's not my intention not to support this. I don't live in Russell, and I'm confident that we've been through a fantastic process with the community. And inevitably with the community, you're going to have some people who are wildly supportive and some people who are not. What spectrum in between the trial. So a couple of questions for me. this is self-policing, we're not actually barricading off the road. So I'm not sure what the $30,000 to $40,000 budget is actually for. Seems like a lot of money for a couple of signs, so just some clarity on that. And my second question is, if I'm misreading that, please tell me I am. But we're going from Cass Street to Kent Street, and if I read this, Matt, David, your property is not in the impacted zone, so I'm not clear on, perhaps I'm not reading it clearly. So just if we could just tidy up those two.
So this is, yeah, it's in the zone that's, I guess you call it the historical zone. So it's in the zone that they want to pedestrianise. Can you come down and
As I read the options page, option 2 was the one that received the most support, but the staff are recommending option 3, which is a pedestrian zone from Cairns to Pitt Street. So I'm just wondering if I'm reading it wrong. Because the way I look at this, Cass Street. Oh, Cass Street to Pitt. I'm reading it wrong. Cass Street to Pitt Street is the southern end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Southern end, not the northern end.
So we refer to the north and south as from the north.
So why are we having conversations about the Duke? What am I not understanding?
The Duke will not be impacted because they will still have they will have a shared road. So they will not be impacted.
So, and they are in the northern section.
Yeah.
And most of those properties have dual access from the rear of their property and from the Strand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm going to belabor the point because I'm confused. I'm confused. Someone else in this room is confused.
Jane, could you?
It doesn't say that, so just let me.
Can I just? Do you want me to just repeat it again for Anne's benefit?
Jane's going to explain.
Okay.
Jane.
Through the chair.
Option 2 is the one that received the most votes, 45% of the overall vote. However, staff recommend we go with option 3, which only talks from Cass Street to Pitt Street. It doesn't talk about from Cass Street to Kent Street. And so I'm a little unclear exactly what it is we're proposing to do and what the money is going to be used for. Jay can explain.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about all 3 options. So option 1 is shared space from both the southern and the northern part of the Strand, so all of the Strand. A shared space means that pedestrians and cars have a right to use the road. So you won't be restricting vehicles, you'll just reduce the speed limit. Both activities happen along the duration of the Strand. Option 2, it's essential vehicles only, which is only a few cars can drive on the Strand, those cars that need to. So emergency services and properties that need access across the Strand. So option 2 is restricted vehicles, south and north. Option 3 is where we're proposing a mix, a bit of both. So on the southern end, where David's property adjoins, we're proposing the restricted vehicles, so essential vehicles only. And in front of the Duke, along the northern part, pedestrian, so shared space, both cars and pedestrians can use it.
Does that help? Because it is confusing when you're talking north and south. I mean, those of us that are familiar with it, I just can picture it, but yeah, it is a little confusing.
I think it's really critical to stand back, and this is not a criticism, so please don't take it as a criticism. If someone is not familiar with the area, does it what's written and the pictures make sense? And they don't always. So thank you very much for clarifying that. And the money?
So through the chair, we were asked to set aside a indicative budget out of the whole of the placemaking. Without knowing which option the elected members are going to select, difficult to say. This is X to implement. So we've taken a $30,000 budget, and that would include signs, duplication perhaps of seating to do road narrowing, other interventions for traffic calming, perhaps in the shared space, again, road narrowing, perhaps of temporary speed signage. So that is the top end, but we were asked to just give an indication.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Madam. Sorry. Where David is, would you suggest that the traffic only go one way down towards Ontario, like it wouldn't be allowed to come back up to the main street there or to the far end? It would only flow in that open direction.
Through the chair, that's exactly right. Regardless of which options chosen, we're not suggesting that we change the existing to one-way. It's currently traffic on Half Street is two-way, and you have an option to either turn right or left. There's no exit or no entry at the opposing end, and we propose that.
This is, Madam, through the chair, this is my deja vu. Because I've sat through these discussions before on exactly the same place. I'm sorry, not being smart, Jen. And I applaud the staff for being up with something. And it may well change in 2 decades from now as well. But it seems a very sane look at a problem.
I think the key shift, Lane, is that we actually made everybody tell us how they felt with the survey and the pop-up, because it was clear that people felt quite strongly either way, and we couldn't actually have a grown-up conversation as a community because people started shouting at each other. So the process we went through was really fair. Not Russell. So the process we went through was really fair, and it allowed everybody to have their say, including the people that feel too frightened. And there were a few people that said, I don't want to get involved. I know what I want, but I don't want to stick my hand up. And it's kind of like, you don't have to be identified with your vote. It's all anonymous. All you need to do is have your vote. So I think nearly 400 people is a really good indication of community support. Yeah. Hardly about the same amount doing traffic in Wellington on Lambton Quay.
I think Lambton Quay is much easier, Jane.
True. Yeah, Russell. This is Russell. But the process has uncovered that 45% of the community would like to see it pedestrianised, and I wouldn't have picked that necessarily as that high, but that's a big chunk of the community that would like to see something happen.
None of them run a business on the Strand.
It's interesting, Jane, the amount of interest that this is actually attracting in the way of discussion in communities. The community of interest that many people have in play here over Kirikiri, their opinions about Russell are quite vocal about it. Russell is unique, and his heritage status and the very feeling of arriving by vessel, as we know, by sea, is special. And the comments are like, basically that I'm very back is, it would be fabulous to further pedestrianise it, and I hope they don't stuff it up. So it's sort of like the trial will be a trial, and as long as it might enhance that feeling of arrival, or it may undo it. My only, I guess, historical lesson learned out of businesses and involving businesses is they sell, they change hands, and they change use. And although it's a completely different scale of traffic flow, I think just moving the post office in Williams Road and High here down near the Hall Square, or enlarging, shifting the pharmacy there years ago, shifted the pedestrian flow of the visitor and the resident, because they're essential services, and also vehicular. So don't ever assume that a large business or a successful business operator is going to remain in the same ownership or as the same operation, because we've all seen things shift. And I think the Strand It's been a bit of a move in history over the years, but it's predominantly food premises, Jane, isn't it, at the moment still? Strange.
Sorry?
Predominantly still food premises?
Yeah, we've got even more food coming in. It's mixed. It's mostly food and accommodation, and the museum and the marae, and the town hall.
So when it comes to businesses, involving them is crucial. But the way that those discussions and opinions carry, I err on caution due to what I've experienced over the years. In these changing economic times, I think we could see, a lot more movement than more regular movement in businesses in these tough times. But job well done, Jane.
Yeah. It's a trial. Yeah.
Did you have any comments you wanted to add to the discussion?
I think probably the key thing is, because of the way the votes turned out for the options, we have deferred to council to be able to make that decision around the preferred option to trial. Just why there are options. Yeah.
I know, because I did think it was interesting when I read 19%. I was that, but it's understanding.
It's more the fact, Belinda, as you would appreciate, if we said the highest vote was to pedestrianise, which it is, but it's less than a majority because it's only 45%, I think there would be massive kickback and the project would fail. So what we're trying to do is do something that actually has the support of the broadish range of the community so that they feel comfortable with it. So forcing pedestrianisation on 55% of the community when they don't want it, I don't think is a recipe for success.
Question for the staff and Jane, I guess. This would not preclude us, for example, at the end of the trial, this one saying, okay, guys, we've trial option 3, do you want to trial option 2?
No.
That's potential. I'm not saying that's what we do, but that's on the table.
Success to me looks like the fact that everybody thinks it's so great that they would like to go with option 2 at the end of it.
Jane, if it gives you any comfort, I've done this twice, Kiri and Whangaroa. There were days where I thought you'd never find my body. Now that we've implemented those changes and have been in Kiri for a couple of decades probably now, people forget what it was like before and they love it.
Yeah.
They absolutely love it. So, congratulations to you and the team who've done all this incredible hard work. It's not easy, change, but well done. And I'm very proud of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Hi, Mabel. Food Chair. Under the requirements of the land transport rule, the trial can last a maximum of 2 years. And we have to be gathering public feedback during the entire time of the trial. The elected members, after the initial 6 months, staff will come back to you and give you the results of that feedback. And you have the option then to either remove it in its entirety, modify it in a different way, trial something else, or make it permanent. And so we will be coming back again at the end of the 6 month period to let you know how it's going and understand what our next.
Okay, Madam Chair, I was going to say caution, but it's not the right thing. Because of the vast changes in the ruffle environment during summer and winter, you've got to run this longer than 6 months, I would suspect, unless you're going to pick the 6 months and overlap 2 seasons.
Through the chair, because of the time that we're at right now, I think the earliest we can try to get this up and running is the first December in all
So, the 6 months is going to be the summer, is the point I'm saying.
It'll include some quite a time though, won't it?
It'll take us through the end of
shoulder into that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it starts on the 1st of December, it'll go through till May, and May is pretty winter-like, so.
Okay, I'm sorry, I take it all back.
But you're right, there is seasonality to take into account.
But it's a vast change in seasonality, that. Jane would attest to this, but I used to, in the summer, you sit there and watch the crowds, and then in the winter, you're the only person on the ferry. I'm happy there. I go to Bluebell more often than I actually was a passenger. So,
I think it's the benefit of doing it over the peak and knowing that we're going to be hit again with cruise ships, and the visitor numbers are looking good, depending on the weather. I'm not sure when Easter is, but that's always the cut-off point usually for the peak. You know, if it's in March, we tend to have a shorter summer. If it's in April, we might have a longer summer season. There are a number of things to take into account, but definitely doing it over the first going to give us the worst case scenario. So, Andrea, can I just start? What role are you playing? You're working in the place open team with Jane? Yes. Yeah. Right. Right, so have we got any more questions, discussion?
Just one more, and it's just a technical one. This is a recommendation to council.
Yeah.
Does this not, apart from the fact that it's actually a road, placemaking is entirely within the delegation of the board, does it have to go up to council? Because that's just going to add to the frustration and delay. Don't.
Through the chair, don't disagree, but as the road controlling authority, changing the land transport, and I don't believe it's that delegation.
Is it possible then to put a bit more detail in the maps before we get there? If it's too hard, that's fine, I understand.
To do that, we're aiming to that. That's it. There anything else I can check? That's just the question of trying to get in.
maybe if the council don't have a compass to talk about left or right.
Yeah, perhaps, north and south, which is the local expressions, perhaps they could be added to those maps. And this is the spot where David votes might be helpful.
We can try to update the maps and the report.
Might just be a me thing, but I found having the southern portion of the road and the northern portion of the road and two photographs on top of each other a little confusing, but that might just be me.
Oh, you would like to see it split at history?
No, so that south is on one page, north is on the other page.
And you can see that.
It's split at history.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so before we resume standing orders, we want any discussions around the options?
Option 3 is the one Jane wants, is that correct?
I'm going to support Jane on
Yeah, and I think that's it. We're in conflict, and it's just about me supporting Jane.
Well, Jane wins it, that's her.
Yeah. Well, everything that's just proposed makes sense. It's just a 6 month trial.
Yeah.
Do Adams after the feedback.
I think staff have done a great job on this, and Jane.
Start happy.
That's the recommendation.
All right. So with that, Annie, to move that we resume standing orders. Yeah. Jane, second that?
Yeah, second that.
Right, so we'll put the recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approve a pilot commencing late 2024 for 6 months, during which the use of the Strand is changed to C. Option 3, essential vehicle access only from Cass Street to Pitt Street, with the remainder of the Strand as shed space, attachment 1, map 3. Sure you want to move that, Jane?
I'll move that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seconder, Lane. All those in support? Against? Yes,
That was fun.
now we move into the other fun part. Item 8.1 on page 36, El Fresco Diamond. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to speak here, everyone.
Oh, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for taking part.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I appreciate what you've done very much. Thank you. Bye.
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 Right, item 8.1, that Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board A, pursuant to the Council Resolution passed on the 30th of June 2022, provide comment on the renewal of a Frisco dining approval application. We've got Machine in Kenya. Is that resolution date correct? Is that when Community Board were delegated al fresco dining, Ken?
Through the chair, yes, I believe so, Madam Chair.
With the land, the produce.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to get that clear in my head. Right, we will just go through these one by one and just comment on our inspections, just for benefit of the staff in relation to these. The first one is our cafe in Kings Road in Paihia. I did an inspection on that, and that was all good. They had their 2 tables and chairs in the designated area, and everything was fine. Next one is Kitty Kitty, the Rock Salt Restaurant and Bar. The Kitty Kitty.
I went through and had a look, and I'm still confused as to where mobility access would be. There's two al fresco dining locations. One is the cafe, and then one is Rock Salt. And I defy anybody to walk in a straight line or navigate between the 2 areas. One has a space left in the middle, and then the other one has the space left around the footpath.
So does Rock Salt does not have the clear minimum footpath width?
Well, it's not actually their problem. It's the problem is the council has built a stone thing that is less than 1.5 from the edge of the curb. But it didn't matter because there was plenty of access on the inside of that, if you will, for mobility access and all the rest of it. But now, of course, we've got the al fresco dining filling that space. So if you are in a mobility scooter, you've almost got to make a turn. The other cafe puts their tables out on the edge and close in, so there's a gap in the middle. Once you get to the Rock Salt, it's not that far. Then the access becomes on the curb, which I'm not sure around the edge, and you. I don't have these available, so.
They were compliant with the numbers of tables and chairs.
Oh, yeah. Just.
So, Ken, have you got that comment to follow up on the accessibility on the curve of Rock Salt on the corner there?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll focus a bit more attention. Not received any complaints, but obviously that doesn't mean that people may or may not experience issues. So I'll prioritise that we give that some attention.
I mean, the ear has a photo of you probably can't see it online, but it's
Ken, I'm quite happy to, Madam Chair, if I can just through the chair. I sit on the Disability Action Group, and it becomes, and I know we had an incident up outside the council building with the little Chinese sushi. The guy came down with his wheelchair and his lance and smashed all the things. And I went and had a look at that. This will come up in this meeting also with the burger joint. And I just wonder if we can look when we put in al fresco dining, is there a reasonable pathway for somebody in a mobility scooter? And I make the point that we're going to see more and more mobility scooters, and there should be at least 1.5 down, and when people put al fresco dining and one organisation puts it there and the next organisation puts it here, and there's nowhere left.
And there's a pole in the middle.
But that's, once again, that's us. And so it's this creep. We did those stone planters outside Rock Salt. Council did that. and then they have their awning over the top. So most people walk under the awning. That becomes the walkway. So what we've done now is if we put out all the tables and chairs that they're entitled to put out, you've got mobility scooters going around the edge, and there's less than a metre between that pole, which is a parking pole.
Pole needs to be moved.
Well, it's even from the plant, there's only 1.1. And as it measured yesterday, I just make that comment to staff and in general that we should be keeping that in our mind when we sit down and say, "Oh, fresco dining, do we leave enough space for wheelchairs and mobility?"
Chair, can I just say to them, I just have to laugh on the inside because the planters were there first. Our fresco dining came later.
Oh, of course.
But it's compounded with sandwich boards.
Oh.
And we're live streaming, and I'm happy to put my hand up. If your sandwich board is in the drain, I might be the one that put it there. Because people put their sandwich boards right in the middle of the footpath where people on mobility scooters cannot get through. And the worst people in the world is in a cobblestone wall. So although this is slightly out of the remit of the item before us today, I would strongly encourage staff when they are inspecting for compliance that they look for sandwich boards as well. And it's all very easy for an able-bodied person like mine to give it a wee tap at their foot, move it out of the way. And it is not easy for someone who is frail and disabled. So I want to just add my support to my colleague Wayne that we do need to consider all users.
Once again, we are live streaming. I'll tell you, we have a gentleman that I refer to as Sir Lancelot, who has his mobility scooter and he has a stick, and he is quite capable of taking out 3 or 4 sandwiches. And you know, while I'm not applauding the activity, I understand his frustration. Absolutely.
So Ken, would you like to just check out Roxall, please? And there is I know looking at that, there's a sign or pole in the middle of the footpath that somebody should have used common sense and put it against the stone wall or out by the gutter. It's just restricted the flow. And we used to at council years ago have early December have an annual monitoring department and an annual sandwich board sweep. And it was highly successful. You'd be surprised at the number of businesses that never reclaimed their signs and went and made another one. But council would remove them, notify the businesses that they weren't directly outside their premises and they were obstructing the footpath and they really didn't care. So they weren't in a hurry to go back and claim their signs, and they're not cheap, those sandwich board signs, to get them made. So it may be worthwhile, you know, doing a sweep of sandwich board signs just up and down one side of the road. We do them regularly in fire, and it's pretty self-policing these days. So,
through the chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are they allowed to have sandwich boards outside?
Directly outside their in line with their premises.
Right. Is there a width or a measure or an area that they have designated?
Each town and retail precinct is different as to which side of the road footpath they put them on.
Right.
But Ken, you might want to respond to that.
Yes, Madam Chair, you'll recall that leading up to last summer, with a prompt from the community board, we did visit the towns by here and speak with business owners. It's something that we'll do again. It's a good time to do it now at this time when renewals are taking place. It's something that we just need to monitor and keep our eye on, and obviously respond to any customer concerns. So, yeah, we'll look at that. I'll ensure that our staff do those visits. I allocate region by region the alfresco renewals to team members and get them to check, and we'll check with regards to the 1.5 access. Obviously, I take cognizance of the fact that some of the arrangements are somewhat quirky. So it's about having conversations with the business owners and just making sure that they're on top of things.
Through the chair, if I could just make a comment as well, is maybe it's worth noting when we talk to the businesses that if they're adjacent to another business with an alfresco license, that the pathway is continuous, so people aren't zigging and zagging to the table. And the only other comment I have as well, that Fishbone is listed here, but it's actually listed as Sharp Cafe in the nation, so the name's wrong.
Through the chair, I think it's a really good opportunity to work with business associations to help support that kind of activity, because it gives the business association an opportunity to engage with businesses they might not already engage with, and then to be able to assist them, so that rather than getting your sandwich board snatched, in your which I quite like, that the business association can then start leading with that guidance.
He doesn't just snatch them, mate.
No, I know.
But some refuse to move them or add them. So, yeah.
Mockingly, really flippant. I try not to be too flippant, but I do think I've worked in areas where they sometimes just have a little indicator on the pavement where they can and can't, you know what I mean? So sometimes for retailers, or particularly in retailers in South Auckland, you put all their stuff outside their shops, they're only allowed to put it one, X amount of.
It's a really good idea.
And so there's just little, they stick those things on the pavement. They just used to draw a dot, but then dots disappear. And it's the same with that access. So, but it's just a useful way to work with the business associations to provide some positive, interaction.
It's really good feedback. I'm a member of the Kira District Business Association. We've got our AGM tonight, so I'll take that feedback to them. I'm just going to expand on this a little bit. I find most shop owners are really good, and I have gone and spoken to a few people in the past who actually could we move this for the following reasons, and they generally responded quite favourably. But it's changing out there, and increasingly, particularly around the box shop, people sit there with dogs, and the dogs have very long leads, and the dogs tend to lie in the footpath area, and then they've got water bowls. Then the other thing I'm noticing on rubbish day is people are putting their big stacks of cardboard out, and collectively all of these things are obstructing the footpath. And not that they do it deliberately, I just don't think that they appreciate that this is making it difficult for someone else. So I'm thinking if we could also lead some kind of communication thing, we could use Ruben's team and put it out on our social media and just say, please consider the needs of everybody in this CBD. Don't park your motorbike on the footpath, that's a big one. We've seen a lot of that in here, I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah. Real estate agents, don't put your metal frame outside that's got all your free property press magazines in it. I'm trying not to pick on any one business. I'm just saying, palm fronds are falling down and just being left on the footpath. So I think there's a really good story here.
Through the chair, if you don't mind, on Monday we're meeting with the Disability Action Group and with our comms and engagement team to do more recruiting, but we could also do a video push with someone like David Senior or the about and do a video of the difficulty and moving out the main road.
I think the other thing too is I've always been tempted to go and get my boards and get some of our people to go, you like that. See if you can have that.
You could do a PR day, though.
Yeah,
I'll come and watch you. Right, my daughter's schedule one here.
I've done it in 5 years. I had a lady down there many years ago who was giving me stripe about her mobility scooter, and she gave me the mobility scooter, and I had to navigate around Paihia.
She's still really like
She's, I know she's still there. Well, I'm getting to that point, so, you know, it's becoming very self-interest here.
Just before we leave this discussion, I actually didn't move that formally, so I'll move it. We'll have a second for this recognition. Thank you, Roddy. So I'm sure Ken's got all of that. Moving on to spice.
Before you move on, I think the strangest thing I found when I went over there, because I put a mistake comment with sick on one side because it's actually an area, the area is actually being paved in a certain way. So as long as the inside that, it's always paved space for the big. But then we also have the big house there. And yeah, I was never on here. The only thing I never had to tell them, of course, I got my answer why they don't have, they need one. But I turned around and I said to them, because when I first asked the questions about this, basically bringing up at the front. The scariest thing for me was, why don't you know whether or not you need one? The answer, because council never checks anyway. And said, I wanted to transfer the understood it. That's not an answer I want to hear. Which means when they're telling me the council doesn't check it, telling me the council doesn't do the job. And if we were serious about creating space for our people who need that extra support, I mean, we should be doing that job.
Thanks, Roddy. We're going to go through some of those, but the interesting point you've raised there is this is quite a new delegation to community board, and this is why it's coming to us to comment to staff so that we can make them aware of businesses that I've picked one up that doesn't have a licence, so that they can follow it up. And also, people often don't know what they need to have. You don't know what you don't know. They see other people putting tables and chairs out, so they do it. So, and Ken and Rashid do a good job, you know, in overseeing and monitoring this. So, it wasn't always like that, but definitely, and I'm sure through this board and discussions we've had over the last few years, it's brought our fresco dining to the fore, our public open spaces and how precious they are. So, moving on, Spice Grill, is that your one and only?
This is my moment. No problems.
No problems. Let's go to Kyo for our fresco dining.
No, I've seen it. I think it's a bit of a worry.
I'll do it. Okay, Bruce. Let's Cafe, Williams Road Pioneer, they're compliant. They've got their 2 tables and chairs where they should be. Jane, you're still there, 29
Yes.
Strand, Seaside.
Yes, well, there have been some challenges with this particular one because a motel owner has decided to put 4 picnic tables out on the waterfront. And so 2 of those tables have basically morphed into the seaside area and are being used for al fresco dining. And the motel owner has said, yes, of course, you can use them when they're not being used by other people. So I'm hoping that with the placemaking project, we'll be able to tidy all that up. But they've had the additional 2 tables all summer. And then they've also stuck out a couple of inside tables on their area. So they're actually 4 tables more than the 5 that they've paid for, which has been quite problematic.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how you charge them for last year's tables for the extra tables they had.
So Jane, is this the area that I had looked at and wasn't happy with over applying for a licence to occupy on the Strand?
Yeah, so that area is now completely full of tables and chairs, and I mean, you couldn't even get off the road if a car pushed you off. There's nowhere to go, and it's just so it's exactly what the placemaking project was designed to kind of resolve, is this occupation of public space, basically.
And those tables haven't been removed.
No, they're still there. They're still there.
Our fresco policy, fresco dining is about eating and drinking outdoors. So if they're not doing that, those tables should be removed. And We did actually email the CEO on this, I think.
Yep, I have asked for them to be removed, and the motel owner has applied for a license to occupy. And I don't even understand how anybody can apply for a license to occupy on the waterfront of the Strand. I mean, it's kind of like if one person gets it, then anybody could put anything anywhere. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But in the short term, they're being used as alfresco dining by Seaside, even though they're not part of their alfresco dining quotient. And I've sent through photographs showing people with menus and glasses and knives and forks and eating there. You've got your hand up, Ken. You're on mute.
Apologies, through the chair. Yeah, we've investigated the concerns that have been raised, and we've spoken to the owners of the restaurant, spoken to the motel owner, and the conclusion that we came to was that the restaurant are not utilising those tables in terms of actively serving people at those tables. The Commodore provided those tables and has applied for a licence to occupy. I'll have to refresh my memory where we're up to with regards to that. Members of the public have utilised the tables. They buy takeaway coffees, they buy fish and chips, and they go and sit there. We don't believe that the restaurant has actively absorbed those tables as extra tables for their business. That's the conclusion that we came to.
Thanks for that, Ken. I think Jane and I have a different interpretation on it in the sense that issuing licences to occupiers does set a dangerous precedent along the Strand and anywhere in our towns and villages, in our popular public open spaces. And we were both of the opinion that they should be removed forthwith, that they're not, the premises who has put them there does not actually have, they're not a food drink outlet, and that they should not have them there. And that is, we hope to deal with this through the placemaking. Jane, you might want to comment further to Ken?
Yeah, so through the placemaking, there is a desire, and I understand the motel owner's viewpoint is that should be more places for the public to eat, and that is one of the things that came through placemaking. They wanted more picnic tables and chairs, but where they go and what they look like, really. So if you were disabled, you couldn't sit at those tables. If you had a bad, if you were elderly and had a hip that is getting uncomfortable, you couldn't sit at those tables. So those are not public tables. Stop laughing, Kim. They are not public tables. They're great for families and kids should they be there. And yes, I have witnessed families eating fish and chips. Yes, I have witnessed people drinking coffee there. And I've also witnessed plenty of people having menus and drinks served on those tables as well. Having them in the location right next door to 5 alfresco dining tables leads people to sit at them and expect to be served a meal. It is just, you can't expect the public to know the difference. And Seaside staff will serve them if there's members of the public wanting to eat there. They just shouldn't be there. So we will be addressing it with the placemaking. But I just wanted to flag that last summer they were extensively used for alfresco dining, as well as fish and chips and takeaway coffee, but they were used extensively by the cafe. And I just draw that to your attention. And they have 2 other tables there as well.
So do we have some comfort, Ken, that a LTO will not be issued to Commodores?
Through the chair, I can't specifically give that comfort because I'm not involved in the decision making with regards to that. I can provide you with an update, but when LTO applications come in, it's not something that I'm party to that decision making process. And as Jane has said, we're hoping that it'll be addressed through the placemaking, but I can get an update for you with regards to where that's landed.
For the record, and given that we're on, and I don't wish to make enemies, but Ken, and I appreciate that this is not you, so this is not director, staff, or anybody else. When we do al fresco dining, what we're really doing fundamentally is taking public land and giving it to commercial operators in which to make money. And I have no particular problem with that. That's a commercial activity, and two things. One, I think we should be generating sufficient revenue to make
they have a pretty good way of taking it and comment for me. It looks like it's big enough, but and I don't have measure to measure, but I think it needs to be looked at in a better way of putting those tables maybe it should be so.
And they want to get
yeah. But even if they're not planning to get a frisky, there should be a way to control how the tables are still placed, because if you don't, they're going to continue doing that. And it looks like in the wheelchair might fit, but then it might. And I just don't want to take that chance. And it's up to scratch.
Unfortunately, we are legal leased, commercial leased area is under the veranda, which is, you've got to stand and look just to get the line. All you can do is ask them to keep them within that line. But I'm sure if you were to point out that, from the lease boundary to the curb, a little more distance is required, and if they keep them in a straight line. So having that discussion is always helpful, even if they don't require an al fresco dining license. Like you said, most people are approachable. And to keep that level, because you've got people coming out of cars there too because of the parking situation, stepping onto there. So, yeah.
I can handle that. It was just about really how do I handle it? Because the reality is that I'm only attached to the Alcohol Business Association. I'm currently helping Motora build the new business association. And pretty much I already have a working relationship with every shopkeeper in the community. I was more concerned with how I approached this.
So thanks for
If I got to approach it as a community member, that works. I think that.
Doesn't always work well. I have been rightfully rewarded. But if you go in there with your heart and your mind, most people couldn't.
Yeah. And the business association is a good avenue to go through too. And even to talk to the businesses in town.
Yeah.
If you don't want to put yourself forward personally, I think it brings them together too. You know, it makes them go and communicate with the businesses rather than just being a financial member on paper who doesn't even go to a meeting. It's a good aspect. So Connie's was fine. Kitty lunchbox. That's
Fine.
It's fine. Anyway, sushi is fine. Sushi gallery. It's kitty, I think.
Yeah, well, that's the one that they're fine individually, and the one that will come further down, further. Yeah. They're fine individually. It's just that they don't particularly join well.
So Burger Fiasco, the last one, and Sushi Gallery.
They adjoin each other, but and so I suggest to anybody that's interested that in the middle of summer you go and have a look and figure out the straight line or where the footpath actually lies, because outside the burger place you're once again forced on the total outside of the footpath, and then you've got to do a right hand turn to come back.
So they need to be one side or the other. So you looked at those maps to see who.
Yes, so I've got photographs.
Okay.
I have. I've gone.
So what is your suggestion, that they go toward the outside or the interior?
I think we get back to Kendo and
Just a
check
bit.
with them and just say,
Outside the building.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll.
The little sushi place actually did it. I think they've done it well, is because they made up little planters, and when there was a problem with Sir Lancelot, they handled it very well, and they moved the little plant boxes in. So they're absolutely adjacent to where they are. But unfortunately, in the other case, you're talking about sandwich boards and displays, and menus and tables, and it creeps out. And as I say, I struggle. I couldn't see a straight way to go. And you're forcing people out from under the veranda. It's a lovely big veranda.
When it's raining, everyone wants to be out of the room.
Price spot.
We're just doing their own business. Okay, Ken got that. Sushi Gallery and Burger Fiasco on Kitty Road are compliant, but the flow is not good. Duke of Marlborough and the Gables. Do you want to address those two together?
Yeah, it's probably an idea to note, Ken, for all of the Russell businesses that have al fresco dining, perhaps put a note in to say the number are approved, but the precise location may be slightly altered depending on the outcome of the placemaking project. And that's been in the Duke of Marlborough's licence. And I think Patrick will have a chat with them about maybe rearranging some of the furniture as part of the placemaking. It's a bit early yet. But I think if the Russell businesses are aware, they might be asked to move. Yeah, that would be sensible. And I've made it very clear to everybody that any changes to the road will not impact either the quantity, more or less, of what they've currently got. So they're not going to be given carte blanche to have another 5 tables, nor will they be asked to take tables off. So everybody's quite comfortable with that.
Thanks, Jane. That goes for Gables and Duke.
The Gables. I'll talk to Butterfish separately if you want.
Not on.
It's
here.
at the end.
It's at the end. Okay. So Jimmy Jack's, they were compliant. They actually have new tables. They are licensed for 5 tables and chairs, and they've got 4 huge tables outside, which look very nice new tables. It's not impeding the footpath due to the drainage area. But the only issue with them really is, and it's not an issue because they're well secured, is something we have introduced in these al fresco dining licences, is umbrellas. They have 4 umbrellas and they are secured to steel traffic safety barriers to stop them flying off onto the cars and anything. And they're substantially heavy wooden umbrellas. I think Jane's got umbrellas and Russell. In saying that, we need to address seasonality. In summertime, umbrellas and other things will pop up when the summer comes around and the sun comes out and the pressure's on. They want to use more of that area. So they do have umbrellas that seem to be sort of permanently in place, really, not a problem. So that's Jimmy Jack's Fishbone Cafe. Ryan?
It's called Sharp. Yeah.
Sharp Cafe. Cellini's was compliant. Fahey Bakery was compliant. Third Wheel, they were always going to push the boundaries. They had just closed up when I did my inspection on them, so I couldn't comment on the number of tables, but not as many as summertime, that's for sure. One thing that they are doing, which is a concern, is they had the 5 large picnic tables, which are the big heavy wooden ones that can step over, turned up on, not on their side, but on 2 of the feet, leaning down the service lane. Very dangerous if a child should come along and climb on it. I'm not sure why they did that, whether they do it just to keep people the weather off them and keep people from meeting them. But if anyone was to go along there and knock them and they fell on them, they would be severely injured. The other issue with them, there's actually a couple of other issues. One is they need to remove this fake green carpet grass they've got down the service lane there. There's a couple of pieces there. They're unnecessary, and when they remove their furniture, they just trip hazards. They probably are with the furniture there as well. And I don't see any reason or any need other than they're trying to create a green outdoor space which looks pretty hideous. The other aspect is when they came to us for their new licence last round, they had sought approval from the neighbouring shop to put their tables outside the shop. That shop disappeared basically that next week, and they knew that they were going. There's a new shop in there for Wellness Hub, Positive Mild Works. And I'm just not sure whether or not they have spoken or out of courtesy discussed it with the new tenant. So that was the only thing here on Third Wheel. We've done the fiasco. Butterfish Restaurant, Jane, the last one.
Jane said she was.
Butterfish has just opened under new ownership, and the same owners that own Seaside have purchased Butterfish. So they have changed their tables, and so the small round ones have gone, and now there are very large, big, clunky, heavy tables, such that you can't actually get to the seat very easily. So it's actually impeding access to our public furniture. But that said, we may choose, given that that part of the Strand is going to be pedestrianised, we may choose to ask to move them. So again, Ken, if you can put a note to say that the location of the tables may be moved based on the placemaking project, then I think that covers us. And yes, they have umbrellas, Belinda.
Right, thanks, Jane. So that brings us to the end of the...
Can I just raise one other matter? I'm just quickly getting the condition.
There's a couple of things.
Maybe in there. I've noticed our footpaths starting to get quite bumpy. And the town maintenance contract, I think only does one clean a year, maybe 2, but definitely 1. And when people are spilling food on the footpath, should it be a condition of the licence, and it may be, that they're required to clean it? It's particularly offensive in some of like a milkshake or something like that. It can get quite rancid. But I've noticed, like, outside the bakehouse on Kiri, it's quite nasty.
Bakehouse, where's that?
Next to Russell. The one Fairway Drive?
No, the bakehouse.
Oh, the bottom one, by the gym.
No. You will come up to the Rock Salt too.
Oh, next to there's the Rock Salt, the cafe, then a bakery, lunchbox.
The lunchbox, yeah. Now, so I was just quickly scanning, but
That's east.
I do think that it should be.
But no, I think, Madam Chairman, I think Councillor Court's quite correct. Once again, it comes back to we're very loose on how we let people use public property. If it was a good lease at a good money, that would be part of the lease. You've got to clean it on a regular basis.
And if I had my way, chewing gum would be outlawed. Good enough, but chewing gum on our footpath. But it, with the ratepayers spend a lot of money making the footpaths nice, and then food gets spilled, coffee gets spilled. That's just life. Kids will spill a milkshake, they'll drop an ice cream. We know that. But I do think that they think it'd be nice if Kim could provide them time if we could get the conditions that we would expect them to clean it.
Would be a great point to take on board, Kim, for a number of, this doesn't relate to some of them, obviously, but I just think on that note, there's a couple of other things that were raised there. Lunchbox, we didn't deal with it, Is it in there?
They're complying with their season.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to pick on them because there's others.
Yeah, so there is there any in your area that aren't on this list that didn't get a Briscoe license?
I think it's east in between the lunchbox and Roxall. And tables out front.
The cafe next to Roxall?
Yeah.
Is that, what do they call it?
Yeah, it's east in the Waffle River, whatever it's called.
Cafe cinema.
That's in the report.
So,
It's been mentioned that they.
so you've got that cafe next to Roxall that doesn't appear to have a Briscoe license? Zest, is it?
Yeah, I think it's got like two names. It's like the Waffle Room and Zest or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, effectively, it's
Zest or Waffle Road.
Yeah.
And another,
The fish and chip shop, the new fish and chip shop down by the police station. Yeah.
Ah.
They've actually taken over 2 car parks, completely taken.
But that alleyway's not ours.
No. Well, the alleyway might not be ours, but it's a condition of the consent that the tenant provide the X number of car parks for the public to park in. And then if a tenant then fences them off and puts tables in.
I'm not defending them, but they've been using that area for the last 5 or 6 years.
There are Briscoe dining in a car park area.
But the car park, it's not a public space. It's a private.
My point is, Mr. Mayor, is that might put them in breach of their resource consent. And if a business no longer has enough car parks, then the customers will be able to seek to utilise public car parking.
And then they're going to apply for our fresco dining on the park.
I don't know, it's a little grey. That's why I raised it up to the people who have degrees and far smarter than me to see their mind to whether it's an issue or not, but I'm raising it.
Given that I don't have a degree, I'm obviously much smarter than you, I won't carry on.
That right next to Calypso is also the sushi bar, and they have tables outside too.
That's right.
So, Ken, did you pick up that little part down by the police station, the fish and chip shop?
I don't think it's.
And is there something next to it?
The sushi bar.
Sushi bar.
Area.
To check those 2 out.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I have, in Paihia Williams Road next to the bakery, there's Paihia Fish and Chips now have tables and chairs outside. They don't have a licence either. So there's 2 or 3 to check on that we're missing out on. The other thing I just wanted to raise, and I see Cinema Cafe in Hobson Road is on the report here, which raises another question of, do we know how many of these al fresco licences actually have liquor licences?
Well, the liquor licence process.
2 different.
Well, the liquor licence process actually designates an area where alcohol can be consumed. So, without dragging it up, if they have a liquor licence that doesn't include outside seating, people can sit outside, but they cannot consume alcohol here.
So, doing Ken's monitoring this
Team must be monitoring.
That would be certainly for Roxall.
they might have included that in their license.
Yeah, it's in their license.
Because they've got the alfresco.
Don't know if they out there very much with it.
They have a bizarre system where it can sit on those two.
Chair, would it be maybe like efficient for us to give businesses a sticker when they are approved for like a window sticker that they can put on their business to be like, hey, you know, for 2024 we've got our fresco seating approved or something like that?
I think they are issued funky, aren't they, for the compliance?
Or even just, it would just have to be like you change the colour every year and it's just a little, I know like we pay for like music license, for example, they send us a sticker every year and it'd be like this venue is lead technique music.
How much do you pay for the music?
You'd be shocked. It's almost $2,000 a year.
And if we were charging $2,000 a year for our fresco dining, I'd give them a sticker as well. Yeah, sure.
Okay, Ken's got his hand up, your music, Ken, if you could just respond to that, and I think we'll wind this one up. Muted, sorry.
Yeah, through the chair, the premises are required to keep a copy of the alfresco license and on display or available for inspection. And as you'll be aware, I've got a close working relationship with Chrissy's team with regards to alcohol licensing. So we liaise with regards to that. And there are some premises, including the cinema cafe, that have been slow to come to the party inputting in the application. So that's something that I'm chasing up. And I've really noted the points with regards to where you've got multiple premises and disjointed access way. I think that's a conversation that we can have.
Excellent, thank you, Ken, and thanks for your time. And Michelle, sorry calling you Rasheen earlier, Rasheen. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we've all done our homework on those, so hopefully we're improving on our comments when it comes on
That's
these.
because we got instructed to by the chair.
True. Okay, so that was moved by myself, seconded by Ronnie. All those in support? Against? Carried. So moving to final item 8.2, page 95. Islands-Whangaroa Community Board received the Islands-Whangaroa Community Board August open resolution sheet. I'll move. Second one.
Yeah.
Thank you, May. Nothing really to discuss there. We picked the dog.
Just with regard to the off-leash dog park, council would move the budget as part of the LTP. There is no budget, so should that now be removed from the open resolution report?
Probably.
Not to say it's not a great idea, and I looked at multiple dog parks when I was aboard. They'll come back with an idea.
No money.
But we don't have the budget. We simply don't have the budget to do it at this time.
So I think we could safely remove that, because we do actually, I think, have that in our strategic plan anyway, so it won't be lost or forgotten about altogether, just so long as it's there for future members to fall back on and know that we have discussed on it a little bit ago. These needs or wants or consultant.
Maybe the council could notify the interested parties that know of that budget.
Moved myself, seconded Lane, all those in support, against, carried. So that closes our formal business for today. And I will ask, Jane, would you like to close us? Thank you for joining us online.
Me? Okay. Me nui tātou, kia tau, kia tātou katoa, ko te atawhai o tu tātou ariki ihu kraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me na whiwhuna tāhitanga, me te wairua tapu, ake, amane.
Thanks, Jane. Thank you all of you for attending. And that's just for today. And we'll be there last. Thank you.